At 02:34 a.m. on September 15, 2025, two MH-60 Black Hawk helicopters crossed into North Korean airspace at 200 feet, flying nap of the Earth to avoid radar detection. On board were 12 operators from SEAL Team 6, the most elite special operations unit in the United States military. Their mission: extract a high-value American hostage from a labor camp, 30 kilometers inside the most isolated and paranoid nation on Earth. The mission was supposed to take 47 minutes. Insertion: locate the target, extract, and get back across the DMZ before North Korean forces could respond. Clean, fast, surgical. But at 02:51 a.m., 17 minutes into the mission, the lead helicopter's engines failed. Catastrophic mechanical failure at 180 feet. The pilot had 3 seconds to react before the aircraft fell out of the sky. The Black Hawk crashed in a rice paddy 2 kilometers from the target compound. 2 SEALs were killed on impact. 3 more were critically injured, and the remaining 7 operators, along with the injured and the bodies of their teammates, were now stranded 30 kilometers inside North Korea, with no extraction, no communication with command, and every North Korean security unit in the region scrambling to their location. This is the story of Operation Phantom Corridor, the mission that went catastrophically wrong. The 96 hours that 12 of America's best warriors spent trapped behind enemy lines, and the impossible escape across 200 kilometers of hostile territory that military planners said couldn't be done. If you're here for special operations breakdowns that don't sugarcoat what happens when everything falls apart, hit subscribe on Navy Warfare right now, and comment below. How do you escape from North Korea when the entire country is hunting you? The mission had been authorized at the highest levels. Dr. James Mitchell, a 58-year-old American hydrologist working for an international NGO, had been arrested by North Korean authorities 6 months earlier while conducting water quality surveys near the Chinese border. The charges: espionage and plotting to overthrow the government. The sentence: 20 years hard labor. For 6 months, the State Department tried diplomatic channels. For 6 months, North Korea refused to negotiate. Then, intelligence intercepts revealed that Dr. Mitchell was being transferred to Camp 14, a notorious political prison camp in the mountains near Kachon, and that his health was deteriorating rapidly. Medical analysis of smuggled photos suggested he had less than 3 months to live. The decision came from the White House: bring him home, quietly, permanently. SEAL Team 6 began mission planning in early August. The target compound was a small administrative facility adjacent to Camp 14, used for processing new prisoners. Intelligence suggested Dr. Mitchell would be held there for 48 hours during the transfer before moving deeper into the camp complex. That 48-hour window was the only opportunity. Once he entered the main camp, extraction would be impossible. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. 2 Blackhawks would cross the DMZ at night, flying low to avoid radar. They would insert a 12-man SEAL team 2 kilometers from the target. The team would move on foot to the facility, breach the compound, locate Dr. Mitchell, and extract him back to the landing zone. Total time on ground: 25 minutes. The helicopters would hover just south of the DMZ, ready for immediate pickup. Weather window: September 15th, new moon. Cloud cover forecast at 80%. Perfect conditions for a covert insertion. The team included some of the most experienced special operators in the U.S. military. Master Chief Petty Officer Derek Stone, 38, team leader, with 4 combat deployments and 2 Bronze Stars. Senior Chief Petty Officer Marcus Webb, 34, breacher and demolitions expert. Chief Petty Officer Rachel Kim, 31, communications and signals intelligence, fluent in Korean. And 9 other operators, each with specialized skills in medicine, weapons, navigation, and close quarters combat. They rehearsed the mission 17 times on a mock-up facility built at a classified training site in Nevada. Every contingency was planned. Every timing sequence was drilled. They knew the compound layout better than the guards who worked there. But no one planned for the helicopters to fail. At 02:34 a.m., the 2 Blackhawks, call signs Reaper 1 and Reaper 2, crossed into North Korean airspace. The pilots flew with night vision goggles, following terrain contours, staying below 200 feet to avoid detection by North Korean air defense radars. In the cargo bays, the SEALs sat in silence, weapons across their laps, mentally running through the mission sequence. At Aero 247, 4 minutes from the landing zone, Reaper 1's engines began to lose power. The warning lights in the cockpit lit up like a Christmas tree. Engine 1 oil pressure dropping. Engine 2 turbine temperature spiking. The pilot, Chief Warrant Officer 3 David Lee, a 16-year Army aviator, recognized the symptoms immediately. Catastrophic dual-engine failure. Cause unknown. But the result was certain. Reaper 2, Reaper 1, we're going down, we're going down. He had maybe 4 seconds before the helicopter fell out of the sky. He pulled the collective up, trying to arrest the descent, and aimed for the only clear space visible through his night vision goggles, a rice paddy 800 meters ahead. The Black Hawk hit hard. The landing gear collapsed. The fuselage crumpled. The rotor blades disintegrated on impact, sending debris across the rice paddy in a 50-meter radius. Inside the cargo bay, the SEALs were thrown against bulkheads and each other. 2 of them, Petty Officer First Class Thomas Rivera and Petty Officer Second Class Kyle Jensen, were killed instantly when the fuselage buckled and crushed them. 3 others, Master Chief Stone, Senior Chief Webb, and Petty Officer First Class Sarah Chen, sustained serious injuries, broken ribs, concussions, compound fractures. The remaining 7 operators, battered but mobile, scrambled out of the wreckage. Chief Petty Officer Rachel Kim, the communications specialist, immediately tried to raise Reaper 2 and the Joint Operations Center on the satellite radio. Nothing. The crash had destroyed the primary communications equipment. She switched to the backup handheld unit. Static. "Comms are down," she reported to Master Chief Stone, who was lying in the mud holding his ribs and trying to breathe. "I can't reach anyone." Stone looked at the wreckage of the helicopter, at the bodies of Rivera and Jensen still trapped inside, at the 3 injured operators who could barely walk, and at the 7 who were still combat effective. He did the math. They were 30 kilometers inside North Korea. Their primary communications were destroyed. Their extraction platform was a smoking wreck. And in about 10 minutes, every North Korean soldier within 50 kilometers would be converging on their position. He keyed his radio, broadcasting on the emergency frequency, hoping Reaper 2 was still in range. "Reaper 2, this is Stone. Reaper 1 is down. We have 2 KIA, 3 urgent surgical. We need immediate extraction. Over." The response came back, scratchy but readable. "Stone, Reaper 2, copy your situation. We're RTB, can't risk second aircraft. Exfil will be coordinated from TOC. Sit tight, help is coming." Reaper 2 was returning to base. Standard protocol for a compromised mission: preserve remaining assets. Don't lose a second helicopter trying to rescue the first. Stone looked at his team. They understood. They were on their own. "All right, listen up," Stone said, forcing himself to stand despite the broken ribs screaming in his chest. "We're 30 clicks inside hostile territory. No comms with base, no extraction platform. But we are SEALs, and we are not dying in a North Korean rice paddy. We move south. We stay ahead of their response. And we get to the DMZ. It's 30 kilometers. We've run farther in training." "Master Chief," one of the operators said, 3 of our guys can't move." Stone looked at Webb, Chen, and the pilot, all of whom were trying to stand and failing. "Then we carry them. We don't leave anyone behind. Not the wounded, not the dead. We bring everyone home." At 03:02 a.m., 28 minutes after the crash, the SEAL team began moving south. They carried Rivera and Jensen's bodies in improvised litters, made from helicopter wreckage and parachute cord. They supported the wounded between them, and they moved as fast as they could through the darkness, knowing that somewhere behind them, North Korean forces were mobilizing. Subscribe to Navy Warfare for real special operations analysis, the missions that don't go according to plan. And tell us, could you carry your teammate 30 kilometers through enemy territory? At 03:45 a.m., the first North Korean response units reached the crash site. A platoon of Korean People's Army soldiers, augmented by state security agents, surrounded the wreckage. They found the burned helicopter, the debris field, and evidence of survivors moving south. Bloodstains, discarded equipment, footprints in the mud. The order went out across every military and security frequency in the region. American Special Forces on the ground. Locate and capture. Alive if possible, dead if necessary. Within an hour, over 2,000 North Korean soldiers were mobilized. Roadblocks were established on every route south. Helicopter patrols began sweeping the countryside with thermal cameras. And specialized tracker teams, trained in pursuing infiltrators, were deployed with dogs. The SEAL team was moving through mountainous terrain, staying off roads, avoiding villages. Master Chief Stone, despite his injuries, maintained command. They moved in a tactical column, 2 operators on point, 2 on rear security, the rest in the middle carrying the wounded and the dead. At 04:30, they heard the helicopters, North Korean Mi-17s, flying search patterns with spotlights and thermal imaging. The team went to ground, hiding under tree cover, covering themselves with mud and vegetation to mask their heat signatures. The helicopters passed overhead, searchlights cutting through the darkness. Then they moved on. "That was close," someone muttered. "They'll be back," Stone said. "Keep moving." By dawn on September 15th, 6 hours after the crash, the SEAL team had covered 8 kilometers. They were exhausted, low on water, and slowing down. The wounded were in bad shape. Webb was coughing blood, suggesting internal injuries. Chen was delirious from her head injury, and the operators carrying them were reaching the limits of their endurance. At 06:15, as the sun rose over the North Korean mountains, they found cover in a ravine thick with vegetation. Stone made the call. They would hide during daylight and move again after dark. Moving during the day was suicide. They would be spotted immediately. "Set security," Stone ordered. 2-hour rotations. Everyone else rest, treat the wounded, and stay quiet. For 12 hours, they waited in that ravine while North Korean patrols passed within 200 meters. Helicopters circled overhead. Voices shouted in Korean, coordinating search efforts. And the 12 Americans stayed silent, motionless, barely breathing. Chief Kim, the Korean linguist, listened to the radio traffic on a captured North Korean military radio they'd found at the crash site. "They know we're moving south," she translated quietly. "They're setting up blocking positions along the DMZ. Thousands of troops. They're trying to box us in." "What about our side?" Stone asked. "Any word on rescue?" "Nothing. Either they're maintaining radio silence or we're too far north to pick up their signals." Stone checked his GPS, one of the few pieces of equipment still functioning. 22 kilometers to the DMZ, 22 kilometers through the most heavily militarized border in the world, now on full alert and actively hunting them. "We rest until nightfall," he said, "then we move again." At 19:30, as darkness fell on the second night, the SEAL team resumed their movement south. They had covered only 8 kilometers in the first night. They needed to cover 14 more before the sun rose again. The pace was brutal. The wounded were deteriorating. But stopping meant capture, and capture meant something worse than death. At 22:15, they encountered their first significant obstacle, a North Korean checkpoint on a mountain road. 6 soldiers, a truck, a heavy machine gun position. The road was the only route south through the valley. Going around would add hours they didn't have. "We take it," Stone decided. "Quiet and fast. Knives only. No gunfire." 6 SEALs moved into position. The assault lasted 11 seconds. The North Korean soldiers never knew what hit them. 6 knife strikes, 6 bodies, and the checkpoint was neutralized. The team moved through and kept going, knowing the soldiers would be missed at the next radio check-in. At 01:30 a.m. on September 17th, they reached a small river, 30 meters wide, running east-west across their path. Intelligence maps hadn't shown this river, or the current was higher than expected due to recent rains. The team would have to cross. The water was freezing, the current was strong, and the wounded couldn't swim. The team fashioned flotation devices from their equipment and roped themselves together. Then they entered the water. Halfway across, Senior Chief Webb, who'd been coughing blood for 2 days, went under. The rope caught him, and 2 operators pulled him to the surface, but he wasn't breathing. They reached the far bank and Chief Hospital Corpsman Daniel Park began CPR. 5 minutes of compressions. Then Webb coughed, vomited water, and gasped for air. "We can't keep doing this," Park said quietly to Stone. "Webb needs a hospital. Chen needs a hospital. If we don't get them real medical care in the next 24 hours, they're going to die." Stone nodded. He knew. But there was no hospital. There was only south. Only movement. Only survival. By dawn on September 17th, 52 hours after the crash, the SEAL team had covered 19 kilometers. They were 3 kilometers from the DMZ. So close they could almost feel it. But those last 3 kilometers were the most dangerous. The North Korean military had established a cordon. Thousands of soldiers, dug-in positions, minefields, artillery. The border was sealed. At 07 hour, hiding in a tree line overlooking the DMZ, the team assessed their situation. Between them and freedom was a kilometer of open ground. Then the North Korean defensive line. Then the minefield. Then the DMZ itself. 4 kilometers of no man's land laced with mines and barbed wire. Then the South Korean defensive line. "We'll never make it across in daylight," one of the operators said. "They'll cut us to pieces." Stone studied the terrain through his scope. He was right. Moving across that open ground during the day was suicide. But waiting another night meant Webb and Chen might not survive. And it meant the North Koreans had another 12 hours to tighten the cordon. Then Chief Kim spoke up. "I have an idea. It's insane, but it might work." At 8:30 a.m., a North Korean patrol boat chugged down the Han River estuary, moving west toward the Yellow Sea. The boat was a standard KPN patrol craft, 40 feet long, armed with a 14.5mm machine gun and crew of 4. It was conducting routine patrol duties along the border waterway. Except it wasn't a North Korean crew anymore. At 08:15, the SEAL team had ambushed the patrol boat when it docked briefly at a small pier to refuel. They'd eliminated the crew in under 20 seconds, changed into the crew's uniforms, and taken control of the vessel. Now, with Chief Kim, the only Korean speaker, on the radio responding to check-in calls, and the rest of the team hidden below deck, they were sailing the patrol boat south toward the maritime border. "This is the craziest thing we've ever done," someone muttered below deck. "Shut up and pray it works," Stone replied. At 09:47, the patrol boat crossed the northern limit line, the maritime border in the Yellow Sea. South Korean naval radar picked up the contact immediately. A North Korean patrol boat heading south at 12 knots, deep into South Korean waters. 2 South Korean patrol boats scrambled to intercept. On board, the crews manned their weapons, preparing for confrontation. But as they closed to visual range, they saw something unusual. The North Korean boat was flying a white flag, and someone was waving frantically from the deck. The South Korean boats approached cautiously. Over the radio, a voice transmitted in English. "South Korean Naval Forces, this is U.S. Navy SEAL Team 6. We are 12 American personnel aboard a captured North Korean patrol boat. We are requesting immediate assistance and medical evacuation. We have 2 KIA and 3 critical wounded. Do not fire. Repeat, do not fire. We are friendlies." There was a long pause on the South Korean radio net. Then, "American vessel, maintain current course and speed. We are coming alongside. Prepare for boarding and transfer." 20 minutes later, the 12 SEALs, 7 walking wounded, 3 critically injured, and 2 body bags, were transferred to the South Korean patrol boats. U.S. Navy helicopters arrived within the hour to evacuate them to Osan Air Base. The mission to extract Dr. James Mitchell had failed. He remained in North Korean custody. 2 American operators had died. 3 more nearly died from their injuries, and the United States had lost a helicopter deep inside North Korean territory. But all 12 operators made it out alive. They crossed 30 kilometers of hostile territory, evaded thousands of North Korean soldiers, and escaped using a captured patrol boat in an improvised exfiltration that no one thought was possible. In the after-action review, military planners studied the operation for months. The conclusion: the mission should never have been authorized. The risk was too high. The intelligence was insufficient, The backup plans were inadequate. But once the helicopter went down, the team did everything right. They survived through skill, endurance, and the refusal to leave anyone behind. Master Chief Derek Stone and his team received the Navy Cross for their actions during Operation Phantom Corridor. Senior Chief Marcus Webb spent 4 months recovering from his injuries, but returned to active duty. Chief Rachel Kim was promoted and now teaches escape and evasion at the Navy's SEER School. Dr. James Mitchell remains in North Korean custody. Diplomatic efforts to secure his release continue. And SEAL Team 6 added another chapter to their legacy, the team that walked out of North Korea when everyone said it was impossible. Now I want 3 perspectives from you. First, should Special Operations Forces conduct hostage rescue missions in countries like North Korea, or is the risk to operators too high? Second, when a mission goes wrong and operators are stranded behind enemy lines, what's the ethical calculation between attempting rescue and preserving remaining forces? Third, if you were Master Chief Stone, would you have left the critically wounded behind to increase the chance of the rest of the team surviving? Comment your detailed tactical and moral analysis below. Your insights drive the conversations we have on Navy warfare. And if this breakdown of 96 hours behind enemy lines in the most isolated country on Earth gave you new respect for what special operators endure, prove it by hitting that like button, subscribing to Navy Warfare, and turning on notifications. Because when everything goes wrong, the difference between survival and death is training, discipline, and the refusal to quit. Until next time, stay informed, stay resilient, and remember, we leave no one behind.